how you would approach JobsOhio if you were auditor. Can you be a little more specific? Tell me, how do you go about auditing that private nonprofit, given what lawmakers have done?
Well, I think, but for liquor profits, there's no JobsOhio. The governor is clearly a public actor. He appointed the board of JobsOhio, and so it's the responsibility of the auditor as a creature of the Constitution to look out for the citizens of the state. They're the shareholders, and so the idea that KPMG did an audit and then they took a black marker and redacted portions of the audit and handed it to the shareholders and said, oh, well, we've told you what you need to know. Well, that's not how it works, actually. If you're a shareholder, that means you get to see it all. You're not, just some average person. You have an ownership stake in this thing called the state of Ohio. And so I think it is the duty and the responsibility of the auditor to follow how that money is being used. It's supposed to be creating jobs in local communities and local investment. There's promises being made by the businesses that are receiving these grants and awards to create jobs, to come up with private investment on their own. And it's important that the auditor state demonstrate that they either are in fact following through with making that private investment, creating those jobs, or they aren't. And I think anyone who's objectively looking at the reports coming out of JobsOhio right now with respect to claims on jobs created by JobsOhio would say this isn't accurate. This is not accurate data. I mean, they're taking credit for jobs that were created before the administration began from other economic development projects. And again, any economic development professional would tell you if you make economic development investments, some are going to work, some aren't going to work. And the public deserves to know what's working and what's not working. And, at the end of the day, then it's their responsibility to hold elected officials accountable. And so as auditor, I'm going to follow the money. And, that means that if grants are being awarded and there's promises contractually of private investment and job creation, well, the auditor needs to be making sure that that's actually happening, and not just that those who benefit politically are saying, oh yeah, it's absolutely happening. Okay, well, it's my job to check to make sure your numbers are right, and then share it with the public. And you can argue my numbers if you want, but it's my objective job to show whether or not that's happening. And I think the auditor does play a part in working with those local businesses and communities at the outset to say, you're getting this grant or award. Here are your responsibilities in order to comply with the grant or award that's been given to you, because we want you to be successful, and this is how the auditor is going to look at the grant and award. And similarly to the local community, okay, well, this business is getting this tax abatement, or it's getting this public money through grants to fund what they're doing, and they've promised that they're going to create this many jobs in your local community, they're going to create this much economic investment in your local community, and we want to partner with you to make sure we're holding them accountable for what they've agreed to do. And I mean, that comes from a 2010 report from, I think, Rich Cordray, who was the Attorney General at the time, saying we got real problems with holding those who are receiving our public money accountable for what they promised to do, and we need to have stricter ways to measure it and offer them help with making sure that they're able to better monitor what they're supposed to be doing and comply with the grant awards. And so, I plan to do that, to try to help the businesses to comply and to help the local communities to hold the businesses' feet to the fire to make sure they're complying.
Does the auditor have the power to do that, given the way state law is written right now, or are you going to be stuck in legal battles at JobsOhio to get the numbers?
I think the auditor does have the authority to go after these dollars. I think ultimately, as you read the Constitution of the state, the fact that the drafters of the Constitution created the auditor of state in the Constitution, they were saying, look, we've created this position to be beholden to the taxpayers, not to be beholden to the legislature and governor. In fact, we created it as a separate office so that the auditor's looking over the shoulder of the legislature and looking over the shoulder of the governor and those agencies, because they ultimately are beholden back to the taxpayers. It's their job to serve the taxpayers, not to serve the legislature, not to serve the governor. And the fact that the legislature and governor then drafts a law and says, we want to figure out a way to short circuit the citizens' individual who's supposed to be a check on us, I mean, it's almost laughable to me. And so, I think the auditor can move forward and, do these things, and I plan to do so.
How was your campaign